In my relentless search for more new RTS games in development, there were only a few game projects which impressed me as much as Ablight. This is why I now bring you fresh and exclusive new footage of this very much classical RTS with a Dieselpunk/medieval and get this, Sewerpunk team. Its talented and passionate indie developers even found time for a mini interview with me, so grab a drink, sit back, and let's dive into the gameplay. What classic real-time strategy gameplay means in Ablight is resource collection, base building, unit recruitment and combat between three asymmetrical factions, each one featuring a unique playstyle with their own mechanics and strengths. Their armies, as developers tell me, will have both land and air units, comprised of grizzled infantry, soul-infused golems, zealotic elite warriors, gigantic kaiju fighting against dieselpunk mechas, powerful mutants, and more such creatures, monsters, and constructs. As for abilities, developers plan for a number of them, both passive and active ones, as well as global and targeted abilities. What you won't find in Ablight, however, is heroes. The single-player campaign will feature a few unique characters that you can control, but even the story won't be centered around these or make them into heroes with unlimited power! The single-player campaign is planned to have a compelling story experience and be filled with lore, consisting of 17 missions as well as optional side quests. The devs want to create one large story arc, memorable characters, and interesting mission briefings. They are suckers for great cinematics, just like you and I, but without proper funding from a publisher or investor, they don't want to divert funds from gameplay development into making cinematics. I personally have never met an RTS player who doesn't have a favorite cinematic that they can't forget, and by extension the game it was from. One of my top 10 favorites is Red Alert's invasion of San Francisco, and I hope you all share yours in the comments. In general, developers from Synapse Art Studio and their RTS fan-turned-CEO aren't interested in creating overly outlandish gameplay mechanics that feel forced, as they tell me that they feel like such features end up not appealing to half the player base. Another feature they don't plan to have in Ablight is units achieving Veterancy status or getting buffs from leveling up. The way you will advance units and open up new playstyles is by developing new tech and upgrades for both buildings and units, many of which will be unique to each faction. This means full individual tech trees with lots of upgrades for the economy. Since the basis for Ablight is a classic manual worker-based economy with three resources, these being food, ore, and transcendium, deposits of which are spread around the map, I immediately had two map-related questions for developers: existence of neutral creeps and map editing. They answered that all current maps have been made by hand and that they will have a map editor available for players through the Steam's Workshop system, while they are still deliberating on the use of procedural generation. Complex modding tools will, however, depend on the game's success. As for my other question, they don't plan to have generic creep camps guarding resource nodes or giving resources to players who defeat them, but some sort of unique map objectives which will make sense in their world and lore of the game. I personally like seeing creeps and mobs spread around as they help the maps feel more alive, but I would love to read your own thoughts on this topic in the comments below. Before I go over more gameplay mechanics and features, I want to give you a bit more background and information about the people working on Ablight right now. The core of Synapse Art Studio is made up of only 5 developers, but they have specialist support for art and animations from the folks at Saigon Dragon Studios. That studio is in fact working on an RTS game themselves and have previously made art for their billions. When it comes to inspiration and RTS games developers of Synapse Arts love, that is a list so long I should have asked them which games they don't like. Basically, their top favorites are Rise of Legends, Armies of Exigo, Dawn of War series, Red Alert 2, Age of Mythology and more. As you can see, there is no StarCraft on this list because Ablight is envisioned as a unique mix of Age of Empires, Command & Conquer and maybe a bit of Dawn of War. And when it comes to helping this dedicated indie team to finish their game, you can help too by spreading the word to your friends, wishlisting the game on Steam, commenting on videos covering it such as this one, upvoting on Reddit or Steam, sharing its gameplay on social media, and joining the game's official Discord, link to which is in the description of this video. Okay, now back to the gameplay aspects. You will probably be interested to know that developers plan to have fully customizable hotkeys and smart queue features, making controls easier to get used to and take less effort to do more. Something every new RTS player will be grateful for, as well as us aging dinosaurs who were there to see the first Warcraft and Command & Conquer games. And on that note, what was the first ever RTS game that you played and on which system? I personally fell in love with Red Alert when I blew up buildings commando style on my PlayStation 1 and later on PC when I hunted down first animals for food in Age of Empires. Interestingly enough, in Ablight, you can hunt animals for food all over the map in addition to farming at your base. Anyway, I had some more questions for the dev team about controlling units, and when it comes to unit stances, these have been already implemented in the game, while they explained to me that the units will move at their individual speed and not wait for slower ones. This I hope they will upgrade later with a toggle option like devs of Tempest Rising did, and even a solo indie dev in Endeavor Rite of Passage, which is another game I have showcased on my channel before. Other commands you are accustomed to using in similar RTS games will all be in Ablight, including auto groups, which are slowly becoming the norm. Unit formations, on the other hand, isn't a feature devs plan to add, as they believe, and I quote, "they do more harm than good most of the time, with pathing issues and hindered controls over your units while they try to force themselves into formations." This is their view on this at the moment, but we will see by the full release will they change their mind, because I for one love to be able to set up at least rudimentary formations, so range units don't stumble to the front to get hacked into pieces. Moving on to the population cap topic, which I know is very hotly discussed in almost every RTS game like Ablight is going to be, you should know that the current plan is for it to be around 200. Possibly more if optimization and performance allows it. But do not despair, as most units will take up 1 or 2 supply points, with only higher tier units needing 3 or 4, meaning you can still pack 100 units into that population cap. Before I move on to game modes, AI bots and factions, which are topics I asked developers about extensively, let me mention that in Ablight you have both unit healing and building repair systems, as well as some destructible environments. Destruction will be light and show up in some skirmish and multiplayer maps, as well as during the campaign. So yes, not only will this game have a storytelling campaign that will be playable in solo and co-op, but also several additional game modes. Skirmish will offer AI bots to play against, and these developers will try to do their best to make it not cheat. But as they told me, making an AI that does not cheat and still is a challenge to even the best players is not easy. And I will quote them here: "We will probably end up having the highest difficulty AI cheat to some degree, but we will see. We might also want to create an overly cheating AI like it was seen in the Rise of Nations difficulty level descriptions. That might be really fun, but we are interested in what the community says." So, my dear RTS community, feel free to express your thoughts on this subject in the comments below, as developers will be reading those. As for multiplayer, first version of Ablight will bring up to 2v2 custom matches with ranked matchmaking, an in-game ladder, observer mode, as well as recording and sharing replays of matches. Lastly, two more available game modes that developers are planning to have will be a survival mode, playable on your own or with friends, and a sandbox mode used primarily for unit testing. Now, for those interested in the three factions you will be able to play as in Ablight, those are the Guardians, Plagued, and the Inquisition. Guardians will mainly use a large variety of mecha units. They are designed with a unique unit mechanic in mind that allows them to build faster than normal workers. Guardians faction will also have the ability to repair in and out of combat and to deconstruct buildings in order to move them elsewhere, allowing for an almost nomadic playstyle. Inquisition will be based on use of different beast units along with powerful support spells. This faction will have an economic focus with the ability to strategically empower all kinds of structures for various boosts. As for the last faction, called the Plagued, they will feature rapid tech switching through the use of something the developers are currently calling the Core. This is a completely unique supply system, totally different from the classic one that is based on building supply buildings to increase the supply cap. This is also where the Sewerpunk description I gave you at the start of the video comes from. Alright, so let's be honest here. I know what is on your mind as you're watching this work in progress gameplay. When will I be able to play this game? And is this going to be another one that will drag on for years until I forget about it? I would like to answer that with the fact that Ablight has been actively in development for 2 years already, more if you count the planning stage. Now that there is structure to it, devs plan to have multiple rounds of alpha and beta testing, which they will invite you to. And even if they choose to go with an early access launch and not a full launch at first, they say, and I quote, "If we do early access, rest assured that you will receive a great product. We have zero intentions of releasing a buggy shell of a game with barely any content. Zero." A release date, of course, depends on funding of the project, and right now these indie devs have been working with their personal money and support of just one investor. They are still thinking of doing a Kickstarter, but even then not for any major amount. As for funding down the line, even after a release, they want to talk to their community and come to an understanding. Would, for example, selling small goodies such as skins or voice packs for a fair price be an okay way to raise funds for making additional content for the game? They want to be able to make at least one DLC featuring a fourth faction and an additional campaign chapter. Additional maps would be free and part of smaller content updates with the inclusion of community-made maps. The game will certainly be released on Steam, while GOG and Epic releases and even a port to consoles are open options developers would love to explore, but of course with no compromises to PC gameplay when it comes to porting to consoles. After gaining exclusive access to these clips I have shown you during this video and doing this mini interview with developers, I have only become more assured this RTS has great potential. If you have more questions about the gameplay, feel free to ask and both developers and I will do our best to answer. For more similar new and upcoming RTS games, check out the cards on the screen and links in the description. Thank you for watching and happy gaming!